a video on making some homemade pate. So I need to make some pate, so I might as well make a video for it. And as I'm not entirely sure about the quantities, I'll probably end up making more than I actually need. So with the spare pate that I've got, while it's still raw, what I thought we'd do is we'll cook it in some jars rather than the terrine mold. So that's your classic terrine mold. So it looks nice. Make it in there, bake, cook it in the oven in a bain-marie, which is like a pan with some water in, and it's kind of very nice. If you want 12 portions out of that, but if you're at home and to make 12 portions just for yourself is a little bit excessive. So what I've done in the past is I've cooked it in jars. So, and these keep for ages in the jar. So you kind of preserve the pate in a jar, and then you can have them in the cupboard. And then if you're kind of fancy a bit of pate, they are a nice thing to have. And also you can give them away to friends, and you can take them on picnics. It's just kind of just something useful to have around the house. And also if you're kind of thinking for the holidays, if you're going to make a whole pate like that, one of those, and you're going to have friends around, why not make double the amount and then do some jars of it as well. These parfait jars, or kilner jars as some people want to call them, they're very nice and they're very pretty, and people kind of go, ooh, they're nice, but I find them a bit problematic to open, because you kind of, I won't open this one because I don't want to have to eat it, but you kind of unhinge that, and then the rubber kind of wants to kind of stick, and it's a bit of a pain, and they're not that economical, because every time you make something in them, you have to replace the rubber seal, so they're not that economical. They look nice, so I might make it in a couple of those, and then give them to my sister, because she'll really like that. She likes those type of jars. But I thought what we'll do as well is we'll kind of show that you can make it, and you can use just normal jars with normal lids, and they work exactly in the same way, and then you can actually reuse the jars and the lids rather than having to buy the rubber sealy thing. So crack on with the video. Well, I'm still going to be talking. So I'm using pig livers. Chicken livers are nicer, but there's a habit that it can give a pate a bit of a green tinge. Chicken livers taste nice, but there's that green tinge that people kind of go, that's off. It's not, it's just chicken livers give it a bit of a green tinge sometimes. So we're going to use some pig livers, and they're a little bit wet in there, so we're going to give those a rinse, get rid of that excess blood and stuff. And then, so the ratio normally is, for a pate, it's same equal quantities of pork belly, pork shoulder, liver and bacon. I was kind of thinking shoulder's a little bit more expensive than belly, so I'm just going to use belly. And then I've just bought some, but it's got a little bit more fat and a little bit more skin on it, so I'll be just whipping off the excess fat and excess skin of that, and dicing that up. So we're washing that, dicing that, taking off the excess fat, and then we've got cooking bacon. Cooking bacon is pretty good, actually. It's normally the end cuts from better cut quality bacon, so it's the cheapest way to buy bacon, but you tend to get a better quality bacon because it is the ends of the bacon and the slightly thicker slices so they put all the nice stuff and they sell it in the fancy packaging, and then all the scratchy bits go into the cooking bacon. So you generally tend to get a better quality bacon. I'm not using smoked bacon. I don't particularly like smoked flavours in things. It's alright if you're purposely smoking something yourself, but most smoke is a bit like, just tastes artificial to me, so I don't really particularly like it. So as with the pork belly, we'll be going through the bacon, and we'll be whipping off excess amounts of fat. Some fat's good, not lots of fat. I don't want that greasy film on top of the pate. So we'll be going through that, doing that, and I've got some thyme from the garden. We'll put a little bit of salt in, but most of the seasoning is just going to be pepper. We can put things like juniper and spices in. I don't kind of want to do that. I'm just going to use pepper and a little bit of salt, and then we just got some eggs to bind it as well. So if you kind of think on for every 1.2 kilos of meat, you need 1 egg. So there's about 5 kilos worth of meat there, once I've trimmed it all up and that type of thing. So therefore that is 4 eggs. That makes sense. Pretty straightforward. I'll do some prep, I'll faff around, I'll be back when we're at the mincing stage. So I'll have everything cut up into, I'll show you what kind of size we're cutting things up into, and then we're going to mince it and then we'll cook it. It's pretty straightforward, and it's nicer than anything you can buy. Certainly buying in the supermarkets, you'll have to go to somewhere that's completely specialised to make a nicer tasting to buy a nicely tasting pate than you can make at home. I'm not going to put any garlic in. I might do actually. I've got some roast garlic in the fridge that I did myself. So I might put some of those cloves of garlic in, and we'll mince that in. And it's a nice, it's not as harsh. Garlic can tend to be a little bit harsh. I'll leave that out. Garlic can be a little bit harsh in its raw form, and I don't like too much garlic because it just makes me thirsty, and you end up smelling of garlic for the rest of the day, which is not a bad thing. It's just, you know, you're kind of lying in bed at night and you're just kind of stinking of garlic, and you're dehydrated, and it's just miserable. So maybe a little bit of that, which has a nice garlic flavour, but not too harsh. But there we go. We'll do some stuff, and we'll be back. Meat is chopped. So this bit is the bacon here. You just need to chop the meat before you put it through the mincer, and the mincer will not cope with big chunks of meat and any kind of sinew in there. So yeah, that's kind of about right. So if we can think of what we're using as quarters, that's the bacon there, which I've chopped up, and that's the pork shoulder there. So you can imagine that's a quarter, that's 2 quarters, because I should be really using shoulder. Shoulder's leaner than belly pork, but I've cut some of the belly pork out, and the bacon that I'm using isn't streaky bacon. It's the back bacon. So, and then we've got about a quarter of the liver, and then we've got some thyme, which I've chopped up, and then we've got the 4 eggs. So I'll mince all that, we'll put it through, we'll give it a mix, give it a season. The bacon, I think it'll be kind of quite salty, so I'm not sure about adding too much salt. We'll certainly add some pepper, and then this is the fat that I've taken away from the belly, and that's the fat from the bacon. I'll mince that as well, and if I kind of think that the pate mixture needs a bit more fat, we can put some of that fat in. I don't think it will, but I'll render that, and I'll turn it into lard and then use it in pastry and all kinds of delicious things. So mince, you don't need to see the mincing, but I'm going to do it on a medium mince setting. So it's about, don't know what that one is, but that's the medium one of mine. I haven't got the others close by to kind of show you what the difference is, but it's a medium setting, so that'll be fine. So we'll mince, we'll season, we might fry a little bit off and see how it tastes, because that's generally what you can do. We can fry a little bit of it off, cook it beforehand, and then we can adjust the seasoning accordingly. But I don't think it'll need any kind of salt. I think just kind of like pepper and a little bit of thyme, maybe a little bit of salt. It's quite salty bacon, and we don't want to over salt things. Right, everything is minced. So the pork belly, the bacon, and the liver, and I've also put the eggs through the mincer as well, instead of having to mix them. And then about 6 cloves of the roast garlic that I've got. I'd use about a clove of garlic per kilo of meat if I was using fresh garlic. You don't want it to, I don't want it two things too garlicky, but just that little bit of background kind of flavour is fine. And then we put ground some pepper in already, and then salt wise, I can't be bothered frying off a little patty, but what you do is you mix it all around, add a little bit of salt, fry off a little bit of that the meat that's all been mixed together, and then taste it, and then you'll be able to see if it's got enough salt in. But I reckon with the bacon it's going to need about 2, 3 and a bit big pinches of salt, and then we mix together with hands to get everything completely combined. And then we're going to put into containers. I really should have had something to wash my hands in, but we'll get there. Just make sure everything's combined. I don't want any more fat in than it's got. It looks like it's got quite a good marbling amount of fat in it, but we just need to mix it together, make sure all the eggs combined into it all, and there's a nice distribution of the different meats and the liver, and there's some thyme in there and the pepper, just to make sure everything is in equal kind of quantities. You don't want like a lump of shoulder meat and a nice slice of pate. That looks like it's alright. Then I'm going to fill these quite full. I've decided to go for, I've got 4 of these plastic terrine molds, which just kind of makes things just that little bit easier. I think I think the other terrine molds that I've got are just a little bit too the different sizes, and I kind of want some kind of consistency. So I want to be able to tell what amount of portions I've got, and everyone's kind of like had an equal amount of portions. So then I suppose I really should weigh, but I think these are about 1 kilo. I think they're about 1 kilo, but I'm going to overfill them. We'll fill up the 4, and then I'll get an idea, and then whatever's left I'll put into some jars, but I think there'll be quite a lot left. I might have to do another one. I might have to do 5. I'll just do some more jars. No, I'll overfill them. Let's overfill them. It can go. Do you know? It can go on forever. I can doing things. That'll be a nice amount for the jars. That's all right. That should be okay. So there's about 5 kilos worth of pate. So that would be about 5 of these terrine molds. But I'm going to put some in the jars. And then they're in the cupboard. And you can keep them in the cupboard. They don't have to live in the fridge. And then, if I've got friends coming over, and if I need to entertain, I'll have some of these jars, and it's just a nice thing to put on a bit of a board. So I fill them kind of quite full, so you can't see them slightly off camera, but quite full, like that. Yeah, that'll work. And there's about enough there for just about the 6 jars that I've got. So that kind of depth. The fat will render out of it, so the meat will shrink down. That's about right. You could just weigh them. I know you've got the perfect same amount in each, but I can't bother doing that. And then, so scrape off my hands. My hands were clean. One jar, and then spoon some into the jar, and then we'll pack that down. If you want to be really fancy, once these are cooked, you can put a layer of fat on top of them, so it looks like it's been properly confit. But quite a decent amount in like that. Let's press that down just a little bit, maybe a little bit more in there. So I'll fill the rest of the jars. I'll get my bain-marie together, and then we'll be back. Have I got a clean finger? No. I'll have to stop the video somehow. How can I do this with dirt hand? No, I don't think it'll work. I'll have to edit this bit out. Oh, I hate editing. I'll just mess it on the camera. Right, so pate is in containers, and then I've just put a bit of baking parchment on top of the pates, and that will stop the top of the pate from baking in the oven. We don't want it to bake, we just want it to cook. And these plastic containers are suitable for boiling. Them is not going to make them warp. They are kind of like not cooker friendly, but they're like microwave safe, so they're not going to melt that easily. Otherwise I would have used the pot containers. And there, alright, so we've got 3 in there, 1 in there, and then these are the little jars with the pate in. There is 5 full ones and 1 half a one, which is fine. We can use that one as a taster. Then it's just a simple case of a bain-marie, which is a water bath. So you just fill up the container, not the pates, just the containers, halfway up the pates, and then we put that in the oven, 150 degrees for 90 minutes, maybe a little bit more. We'll just kind of have to see. When it's getting to the stage where it's, I think 90 minutes is up, what we'll do is I'll just stick a knife in, and if the juices come out clear and the knife in goes easily, then we'll know it's cooked. Just keep an eye on the amount of water in the pans. Put boiling water in, it just speeds up the cooking process. So if you were to put cold water in, you'd have to then adjust the time of cooking because the oven would have to heat up that water. Put hot water in straight away, it just speeds up that process. So it would be like a 2-hour cooking process if you just put in cold water, because it would take about half an hour for that water to get warm and to get hot in the oven. So that's it. In the oven, both of them the same water jacket in this one as well. It just makes for things they don't roast, because if you put it in the oven without water, they would just roast form. Well, it would be a roast. It'd be a casserole, which is not what we're doing. So if you have something cooking in the oven with a lid on, which essentially that's what that is, then that's a casserole. We're not cooking it casserole style. We're actually cooking it in a bain-marie in a water jacket. So they'll go in the oven. Water needs to go in that one, and then an hour and a half later, then we're ready. We'll have a look, and you'll be able to see. Hour and a half is up. Let's get the pâtés out of the oven and have a look at them. Right. So I've just put the lids in the bain-marie for the jars, just to sterilise them. So as you can see, we'll just take a quick look. Actually, I don't want to do that one. Let's pull the other one out as well. So we'll just be a bit careful. There we go. Right, so as you can see, the ones in the jar have browned because they didn't have a bit of baking parchment on them, but that's fine because we're going to put a lid on them. But we'll just uncover that one, stick a knife in, careful because it's a plastic container, and we'll just pull the knife out. Nice clean, and then, which you shouldn't do because the food hygiene people really don't like it, but then you just take the tip of the knife and you put it underneath your lip, and if it's hot, it's cooked. Well, if it's hot to touch, it's cooked all the way through. So we'll just kind of have to redo that one. Yep, that's hot all the way through. So we know those ready. So let them cool down naturally, and then we'll be, what we call it, we'll be ready. So do we want to, what we're going to do with that? That's what we'll do with those. Press those down slightly, like that. They'll be nice and sterilised, won't they? All those. We won't do that one, but we'll just put these lids on, so everything's nice and sterilised. Don't burn my fingers. We'll save that one to taste when they're all cooled down, probably tomorrow morning. We'll put them in the fridge and let them cool down entirely. So just lids on and then carefully tighten. And there'll be enough, certainly enough residual heat in the jars and the pâté to completely seal those. So they are, it's really hot. They are sealable and sterile. And any bacteria that had the chance to land in there will be instantly killed. It's kind of quite a horrible way to think about it, that you are actually eating bacteria, but there we go. So tighten that one, and then they will seal and they'll store for a very long time. So that's it. We'll let these cool down and they'll go in the fridge and we'll see how they are. They are, it's one of those things, so the better when they're 24 hours old, they're even better when they're 48 hours old, and then they start to go a bit downhill after 48 hours. So they kind of want to mature, so all the flavours kind of like mix in with each other. Certainly if you're using herbs and spices in there, so the thyme will taste better, will make it taste better after a couple of days. But there we go. So we'll leave those, let them cool down, and then we'll take them out of those trays and put them in the fridge and let them set up overnight. Right, bit noisy because I'm at work. I'm the funny camera because I haven't got my mount with me. So let's have a look at the pâté. This is the one in the jar. Slightly disappointed because there's only jelly halfway up, so it kind of looks a bit rubbish. Unfortunately, not to worry. But let's have a look in this one. Turned out well. So, give me a knife. Nice bit of jelly on the edges. We'll just trim that off. And then I can taste that. But it's nice and pink. That's really nice. That's really nice. So we'll get 10 nice portions out of this. So I'll just carve into one, and then you can see how it turns out, and you can see how easy it is to make pate. And there you go. Not the best picture, you can't really see it. I should have got some lights with me, but anyway, really nice. Nice and pink because of the bacon, and super tasty. Dead easy to make, nicer with the chicken liver, but you get a bit of a greeny tinge to it, which is slightly off-putting. It doesn't taste bad, it's just slightly off-putting, but there you go. Homemade pate, easy peasy. I think if I make it in jars again, I think what I'll do is I'll have a bit of stock on hand, and then when I've cooked them in the jars, before I put the lids on, I'll just top it up with a bit of stock, and then it'll look nicer. I mean, it's just not amazingly appealing to look at, you know what I mean? It looks like a jar of dog food, let's be honest. But success, pretty straightforward. You know, all you have to do is have a bit of mincer, and it's three ingredients, or 4 if you want to use a bit of shoulder and some belly. But it's nice and tender. I don't think you need the shoulder, if I'm honest. Belly's cheaper, or I'd kind of say depends on what's cheaper. If belly's cheaper, use belly. If shoulder's cheaper, use shoulder. That's my advice. Well, there we go. A success.